cloud. All right, so we're going to finish Revelation 4.
Great.
And then we'll see what happens. So we had finished off in verse 8. We were talking about the living creatures. So maybe I'll read from 8, and then I'll finish the chapter, and then we'll discuss it. So
Okay.
Revelation 4, verse 8. And the 4 living creatures, each of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within, and day and night they never cease to say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. And whenever the living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who is seated on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him who is seated on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever. They cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Worthy are you, O Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. And that's the end of chapter 4.
That's 4. Yep. Well, back to your holy, holy, holy. Again, it's just how separate he is above all else. He's not just holy, and he's not just holy, holy. And I think that's what that's doing there. Is just way overemphasizing how separate he is. Because really that's what holy means.
Separate?
Did you ever just separate? It's interesting. It's like when they had vessels and tools and bowls that they used in the temple, and they were made holy. Well, really, they were just separated out for only temple worship. They remained in the temple. They were holy. They were separated out. And
so here's my question: but separated from what? From
ordinary. Yeah, really. We have a tendency to think, well, it's something that's really good. Well, it normally is something that's good and special. That's why you're separating it out. But it just means it's not ordinary anymore. I mean, I'm going down to the basics, to understand the separation of it. It doesn't, when Paul says, be holy, well, where is it? Jesus. And maybe it's Jesus. It says, where is that? Now it makes me think. I wasn't going to go down this road, but, be holy, for I am holy, right? That's it. Yeah, I sure need that big letter edition, Kyle.
I got you covered, my man. Although one thing, the big letter edition does not have the red letter, which I find helpful.
Yeah.
Or at least this version that I have, this one that I have doesn't. So holy is separate.
Well, I don't know where it is. I wish I had it. It's kind of dumb of me to bring it up and not have the verse. But anyway, we're called to be holy. And there's a lot of misunderstanding in there that we're called to be perfect. And that's all I'm trying to say is we're not, we will never be perfect, not on this earth. And that's not what the Bible is trying to, what God is trying to, where he's trying to bring us. He's saying, be separate. Separate yourself from the world. Don't be ordinary. That's and there's other places, we're supposed to be peculiar to others around us. We should live lives that are not the same as the world.
Right.
That's basically it. We should stand out somehow. We should be recognizable as believers,
Right.
not just blend in with society. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a radical and you stand up on the corner, on a box and preach every other Thursday, downtown. It's not saying that. It's saying just live your life differently. Maybe you don't swear. Maybe you don't tell dirty jokes. Maybe you are honest and you don't lie, and people know that. Things that separate you out from the world. Just conduct yourself that way. Is that earning your salvation? Nope. No, but it shows that you're living a life, you're living by your faith. You're conducting your life in a way that's pleasing to the Father. So
Yeah.
be separate, be holy. So anyway, so God is holy. And he's not just holy, he's holy 3 times over. So he's really, really separate. There's no one like him, is the idea here. So anyway, verse 9. So whenever the living creature.
Well, I was just saying, well, yeah, okay, maybe you were going there with it, but I'm going to go back to 7, which I didn't read, or even part of 6, where it said, and around the throne, on each side of the throne, are 4 living creatures full of eyes in front and behind. You still there? I lost your video. I got you.
We were completely cut
off. The 4 living creatures full of eyes in front and behind. The first living creature like a lion, the second living creature like an ox, the third living creature with the face of a man, and the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight. And the 4 living creatures, right, each of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within. And day and night they never cease to say, holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, who was and is to come. So those are some interesting looking creatures. And I know the last episode or whatever, I think it was Ezekiel that we went into, and we talked a little bit about some other creatures that.
Yeah, Ezekiel 1 and Isaiah 6.
Right. So anyway, is there any significance behind these creatures, or is it all just a giant mystery, and other than that they're there and they sound pretty interesting?
Well, that's where I throw them, is in your last category. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, but we're getting a glimpse into heaven here, into the throne room. And so there are going to be things that we've never seen before. And who knows what these eyes are that are covering them under the wings? I mean, are they really eyeballs?
Well, think about a peacock. I was thinking about that for a second.
Yeah.
Peacocks are covered in what appear, I'd say they look like eyes, but they're not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and it could be that, what they see, I don't know. And I don't know that anybody knows. I mean, and I don't know that John knew as he's looking. He's just saying, I'm just recording what I'm seeing as fast as I can, and trying to give us a description. But there are, when in our minds, there are bizarre creatures.
Well, it's interesting also that it says day and night, all day, every day.
Right.
They do one thing, was sit around and talk about how holy God. Well, not talk about. I mean, they're repetitive. Holy, right. Holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, who was and is to come. Holy, holy, holy.
Right.
Over and over and over and over again. Which means, I guess, they're still doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's an interesting thing when you log that away and what because when we read on and Jesus is breaking the seals, on the scroll, and there's a place where there's complete silence in heaven for a half an hour. We're going to get into that. So can you imagine this holy, holy, holy thing has been going on? There's all kinds of things going on in heaven. I mean, it's a very busy place. Okay. And has been for all eternity. Think about that. Okay. And this seal when Jesus breaks that last seal and there's silence in heaven, that must have been the most bizarre thing to every heavenly creature. They've never experienced that. Never.
Right.
Silence. We think, well, okay, it says for about a half an hour. We think, well, big deal. But that is a big deal. Because even these creatures that are surrounding the throne aren't saying holy, holy, holy anymore. So it just adds to that what's coming. And when we read that, that significance, that's all.
So yeah, that's interesting. So
it
verse
is.
9, and whenever the living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who is seated on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him who is seated on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever. They cast their crowns before the throne, saying, "Worthy are you, O Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created." So those living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who is seated on the throne. Now, him who is seated on the throne, we go back and it talks about who we're seeing. Is it talking about the Father now or the Son?
Well, when we get into chapter 5, it identifies that it's the Father.
This is
the
the
chapter
Father.
4, you don't know at this point. We should know that this is all talking about the Father, but we don't for sure until we get to chapter 5.
Okay.
Maybe we should get into 5.
Okay.
But this picture in heaven is just, to me, this is so large. It's so awesome. It's John is looking at this unbelievable scene that he has the privilege of being able to look in onto. Can you imagine this eternal being that created all things, and he's bringing John in and going, "Hey, you want to take a look what goes on here all the time?" I I still wonder about these creatures. You wonder what's their past. Where did they come from? How did they get lifted up to that position? Are they there because God made them do that, or are they there because they want to be there and they're willing to do that? Did they get a chance to come and see the Creator, and when they saw him, they fell down and worshiped, and they're just still there worshiping, completely on their own free will, because they don't want to be anywhere else? Is that why they're there? We don't have any of those answers. None of them.
Well, and can you get much closer to God than that?
You cannot. You cannot.
Unless you're at his right hand, but that's it.
Well, just to look in on that is just, it's just bizarre. But it lets us see, the crazy part about it lets us see what's actually real, because what we're looking at here will never pass away, ever. Everything we see on this planet is passing away, right? So this is all crumbling and deteriorating and regenerating, and but not this. This is permanent. So this is more real than the chair we're sitting on. You think about it.
Right.
And yet to us, it's like the most bizarre thing you've ever seen. Well, yeah, it is, because it's not from here. It's not of here. It's somewhere else. Is it another dimension? Is it another place? In Roman mythology and their gods, a lot of them came from Orion's belt. A lot of things you read, well, there's a certain star, certain solar system that all of these heavenly creatures came and visited them. I don't know if there's any merit to that, but today's talk is, well, it's another dimension. It's all here, but it's in another dimension. Maybe, but it's the creator, and he definitely, here they are in verse 11. For you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. And that's really the point, I think, of everything today, is the world is in the mode of, we're not going to acknowledge a creator, period. Not going to do it. And science even is getting to the point where they're getting educated now enough that they understand that this is designed. You don't get order from chaos, and science knows that. And a lot of these scientists are saying it now, slowly, but the only way you get order is by design. I mean, common sense tells you that. We don't have anything on this planet. If you don't put your house together, our Amy's down there looking at this project we're doing, and she said, all these 2x4s were laying on the floor 6 months ago, and now it's a house. And I said, isn't evolution awesome? It's ridiculous to think that those 2x4s could put themselves together and organize rooms and a bathroom.
But if you give it enough time, and millions of years, time.
Yeah. And it's such a basic thing, it's nowhere near the complication of our bodies. That house can never reproduce itself and make another house, and yet we can. Come on.
Right.
It's just ridiculous. But it's the world has been not wanting to acknowledge the creator, and they're still in that mode.
Right.
And so now we're going to give credit to life evolved here, and then aliens came from another planet, and then they saw the life that was here, and then they manipulated the DNA and made us into who we are today. Anything but give God credit.
Right.
The creator. Yeah. So it's where we're at, and it's where we're going, and that's it.
So real quick, I have a question. So in verse 9, after it just talks about these these creatures, surrounding the Father, worshiping him all day. But verse 9 says, and whenever the living creatures give glory.
Yeah.
But that makes me seem like, so it's not all the time.
Yeah, but it clarifies it up in verse 8.
Well,
where it says day and night, they never stop saying.
Right.
So that's all he's saying.
Right, but then why say and then whenever? So just meaning like,
Well, he says they're, because every time what they're doing, he's just adding to it. So they're saying holy, 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 and they're also giving glory and honor and thanks to him who sits on the throne.
Okay, so whenever they do that though, which is all the time,
right?
Then you have 24 elders who fall down before him who's seated on the throne. So you see what I mean? It's already complicated.
Yeah.
So unless that means that they are then doing that all day, every day.
No, that's a good point, Kyle. You're right. That's a good point.
So is it maybe just when, because when we go back to Genesis in verse 1 where it says, the sun comes up, sun goes down, right? Then there was day, then there was night. Is that when they do it? Maybe. I'm guessing here. I'm not.
I don't know that they have a sun that comes up and comes down. When you get to the end of Revelation, and God the Father is here with his Son, and they're ruling and reigning the earth, there's no need for the sun.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah,
They
he's
give
like,
light. So there's enough light and energy from them that the sun will pale in comparison. So,
well, I'm just trying to put together then how this works here, you know.
well, I don't know if we know how it works. All we know is what's going on. Yeah, yeah. Do we know the schedule? I don't
Okay.
think. We
And
know.
maybe that's not important. So the 24 elders fall down before him who is seated on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever. They cast their crowns before the throne, et cetera, et cetera. So who are these 24 elders? And you thought this was going to be a quick one because we only had two verses to go.
Well, let's just go back. Let's try to clarify what we just said.
Okay.
Okay, so if we go up to verse 8, it says day and night they never stop saying, right?
Right.
So we've got the creatures that are falling down. So the picture that I have is they're looking at the glory of God. These creatures. Let's just pick the creatures to begin with. They're looking at the glory of God, and they're going, holy, 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 as they're looking at him. And they're just blown away at the greatness of this everlasting, never ending creator of all things, this being that's just pure energy. And they fall on their face and they're worshiping him, right? And then when they get done worshiping, they pick up their eyes and they look on him and they're blown away again. Like, holy, I mean, they see all this. And so they fall on their face and they just worship before him. And they go, this is just the greatest thing that ever happened. And however long that takes. And then they pick up their eyes, they finally take a breath and go, holy. They're just, and then they go back down again. And they're going, man, you are, and they have more words. And then they finally get over that one and they pick up their holy, see, and there they are. Because they're staring right into this being that there's nothing else like it. So there they are. And they just constantly doing that, right? So it says here, and then in verse 9, so that's what the creatures are doing, right? So it says, whenever the living creatures give glory, honor, and thanks to him who sits on the throne and lives forever and ever. Okay, so they're doing that constantly, right? So he says, whenever they're doing that, the 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne. So they're all doing this, is to clarify that. So these beasts, these crazy looking creatures are doing this, and the 24 elders around the throne. They're all doing that at the same time. Or maybe they're doing it intermittently. You know, I don't know. But he's saying that everything that surrounds the throne, when it sees this God, this creator, can't help themselves but to worship him. You know, that's the idea. there's no, in other words, when it goes back to just about, well, it does every instance in the Old Testament, whenever a human comes in contact with an angelic being or with Jesus, you know,
flat on the ground.
because there's two things that they know immediately. They know how pure and holy and awesome this being is, and they know how rotten they are. They're just, it's just instant clarity, right? And so that's the way it will be for us. And that's the way it is for us. I mean, that's what convicts us to repent, is when we really get serious about who we are and we're before God Almighty and we really do connect with him. That's the first thing we want to do, is repent and clean ourselves up first thing. And it's not even a guilt trip. It's nothing. You just want to, you know, no more, no less. You just want to be right. You don't want to be wrong anymore. And that's what it's all about. I mean, that's why he's here, to bring healing like that. So anyways, that help with that? What's going on there, what he's looking at?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of action. all at the same time.
So it begs the question, though, who are these 24 elders?
Yeah, no clue. No clue. I mean, if you want to take what people guess, people will guess it's the 12 sons of Jacob, which made up the 12 tribes of Israel, and it's the 12 disciples.
Okay.
There you get 24. There's a nice number. I don't know.
And so
That
what's an elder?
Yeah, no clue. Why are they there? No idea. I mean, the Bible doesn't explain it. You know,
Do you know what an elder is? I know what
Well,
an
I know
elder in church is. Is that
in
what
the
they're saying?
churches, yeah, yeah. So you can start speculating. Are these advisors? Does God need advisors? That's be another question. Like that hardly makes sense. Does God seek counsel? Are they counselors? Well, that doesn't hardly add up. So I don't know. And we really can't say what the Bible doesn't say, right? So I hardly, I don't like going with people that think they have that all figured out.
And are they throwing their crowns? When it says they cast their crowns at the feet?
Yeah.
Or before the throne. Yeah.
They lay them or cast them before the throne. Yeah. So what do? Pick them back up, and then they see him, and then they throw him down again. They want to give him something. It's kind of interesting when we get to the end of Revelation, we talk about our rewards as his children for our work that we did for the kingdom,
Mhm.
and we're given crowns. There are rewards given for your work on earth for the kingdom. And so I'm guessing that we're going to be laying our crowns down before him. But they came from him. He gave them to us in the first place. But it's kind of like when we're invited over to some special place and they're having a get together or something. Do you go in empty handed, or do you want to take something? The correct thing normally is to take something, right? Well, I think a lot of that is the way you approach God. Is you should have something that you're bringing to the table.
Right.
Yeah. So, which begs the question: what allows us to approach God today?
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's why we come in his name.
Yeshua.
And that's so important. You can't stand before God without him. It's just that simple. You just can't be there. That's what we bring to the table. We bring him. He made the way. That's what he meant. I've made a way for you to come to the Father. And he says, and nobody comes to the Father but by me. Right? So anyway, that may be what's going on and why they're casting their crowns down. Doesn't really say why they're throwing them down. Just says that they do, So should we end there, or should we go into 5?
I think we should. I think that's a good place, man. I think we should. I don't know if we need to do an hour and a half episode today, because I know we get into this next one here.
Yeah. Well, and again, I want for anybody that's following this, reading chapter 4 and chapter 5 over and over are really important, because they lay down a framework of what's going on, and it is going to lead you into questions like why.
We lost you. You're back.
Yeah, and that's something. So I'll wrap this up. So chapters 4 and chapter 5, to me, is what the whole Bible is leading up to. Okay, so this, especially when we get into chapter 5, it's probably the biggest event that is recorded in this whole Bible. It's even bigger than Jesus dying on the cross. Now that's a huge statement, because what's bigger than that? Right? But
apparently what's about to come next. That's a big statement, my friend.
Right. And that's why when you read chapter 5 is why he died on the cross. See, in other words, his dying on the cross was one more thing that had to be done so that chapter 5 could happen. So that's how important this is. Everything in history, all the creation, everything that's been made, all right? I mean, through all the eons of time is all coming up to this point of chapter 5.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why 5 is so huge. And we just have to realize that this is the biggest event ever.
Well, what a cliffhanger. I mean, everyone's the 2 or 3 people that are tuning in now are gonna be dying to tune in next week.
Well, next week we'll do Revelation, or we'll do Genesis.
Oh, super cliffhanger. I don't think we can, man. I think we have to do 5 now, and then we can go back to Genesis. How do we not?
Yeah, but 4 and 5 are really good to read over and over. And like we said last week, you get more glimpses with Isaiah 6 and Daniel 7 and Ezekiel 1, Exodus 19. They're just all describing this same picture. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, to be continued, and I'll see you in a couple days.
All right, man.
All right, man.